Hello, everybody. I don't know whether there's anybody on Zoom today, but if there is, hello. Welcome to everybody in the room. It's lovely to see you. Lots of you I know, which is really nice, although I'm really bad at names, so if it comes to it, I may forget people's names. Anyway, so I have got the joy of being the last person to speak in the summer series. And as Adam said, we've heard some amazing things over the summer, some really rich messages that have been really, I think, key to who we are as a church and what we're about in this season. And actually, it's been great. I've been away for quite a few of them, but I've listened to everything online. And actually, I think it's really important to take time to reflect back. I'm a teacher. There's a few teachers here, and actually, part of what we do is, you're not just giving information. You actually have to allow people to reflect, allow us, children to think about how that bit of information connects in with what they understand. So this morning's a time for us to sit back and reflect. I am going to be bringing a few slightly different things, but it is, I think, set in the foundation of some of the things we've heard over the summer. So it's not a rush. It's actually a time to sit back, think about things, let us reflect, allow ourselves to consider the things we've been hearing about. And if you really don't want to listen to me, it's absolutely fine. Just grab your sort of earphones and listen to one of the talks, because there's, you can do that. I won't be offended. And I've entitled it, You Called Me Loved. And I don't know whether you noticed that, but in that video we've just heard, or whatever recording, I think recordings now, aren't they? That recording, there was a line in it, it just says, what a wonderful grace, that you call me loved. And that line just stuck out to me. And actually that's been a theme already this morning, but actually, you call me loved. You call me loved. You call me loved. And I think it's really significant. And I think God, again, wants to remind us, again, how much we are loved, deeply loved. And our identity is in that. And actually, it's not just a head thing. It is a head thing, but it is also that heart thing of actually knowing how much we're loved. And I think it's foundational to the understanding of everything we've heard over the summer. We started right at the beginning of the, with talking about our identity, thinking about this Psalm 139 that we're going to go on to in a moment. And understanding, Beth talked about the understanding of the kingdom of God. Well, that our understanding can only come from a place of love and understanding it, that actually this is a kingdom of love. Beth, we had Nay and we had Kerry both thinking about slowing down, taking time to think about the words, and God's, even a simple verse, and actually how that can reveal truth to us. So that we can become the image bearers, as Scott spoke about, in the community that we live in, understanding our friendship with God and each other. That is a potted summary of the summer, I hope. But actually, and I think underneath it all, it's, that theme of God is love. I know you call me loved. Now, yes, it works. I'm very excited. So here we are. I think for me, the summer sort of started with baptisms, and we had that's a privilege to host that in our garden, and actually it was just a lovely day, and I think it's a really important time for as a church family to watch baptisms. It's a sign of growth. It's a sign of God doing things in people's lives. And as you can see here, we've got there's a picture of Paris, Daniel, and Emma, and I think Emma's here, which is great to see, sort of thing. And I think Daniel is here somewhere. There we are, yes, somewhere. There we are. Oh, thank you, there's a wave. I can see a wave at the back. But actually, what was lovely is that each of their stories, they all had opportunity to, express, why they were doing it, their testimony, their story of faith, I guess. And actually, it was just for each of them, they were all unique stories, obviously, because they're unique people and our journeys are unique. We meet with a loving God, but actually what that looks like and how that, it's different. And actually, it was a confirmation of something they'd understood about things, and they just wanted to publicly express it and say, this is... Now, if you haven't heard Emma's testimony, if you haven't heard Daniel's testimony, actually each of us have a testimony. Now, I could actually stop this meeting now and say, okay, turn around, talk to the person next to you. Where were they? How did they find faith? That might be something we can do another time. I'm not going to do it now, but actually, it's really good to hear about where we started, our journey started, and I think it's good to reflect upon it. And I think, Psalm 139, captures something about that. And actually, I just wanted to have a moment just to reflect about those stories. And, the key ideas in Psalm 139 is that, that God knows me. He holds us fast. Now, there's a word that I missed actually because I wanted to actually write. It's too late, but he holds us fast. But in that place, we're safe. And I think that's a really key thing that actually not on there, but actually within that psalm, it talks about us, having behind, before, going before us, all of those things that actually, but we are safe in that place. But also, it talks about how wonderfully we're seen, we're wonderfully made. And I think we sang that song just before, how great that love, it's an amazing song, the one that Harriet's just brought, and thank you for that, because I think it's a great song, and it's, how strong is the hand that holds us, and it's, I think also in that, we were camping last weekend. Well, I wasn't camping, I was in Jill's little VW camper van thing, which is slightly different from being in a tent. But actually, on that weekend away, I was talking to Andy Boltwood, and I was, just reflecting just about our identity and how God's made us to be different. Andy B, she's not actually here this morning, but she's a really structured person. She's really good at thinking things through. Great heart, servant-hearted thing. But, God made her to be like that, to do the thing that she's been called to do in the church. She's part of the miracle building team. There's her giftings, who she is, the things that interest her. It's just lovely watching her unfold and become the person God has made her to be. And each one of us, that's when we had Health Sanctuary, which is a women's meeting a long time ago. But, it's just lovely to see what was always wonderful to see women unfolding and becoming who God had called them to be. And that's the same in church here this morning. God has made us unique. We are identities. We've talked about already about just being and the significant. But I think it's also bigger than that. As a church, we have an identity that God has formed us. And we were talking earlier on, Belinda, in the prayer thing, just actually for some of us, some of them, they were right here at the beginning, and actually it's unusual to be able to see where something has started and ended. But actually there is something about that journey as a church, as an identity as a church of who God has formed us to be unique in this town, to do things that God wants us to do because we've understood something about it and we've brought that good news to the community that we live in. So, it's not just as individuals. There is something about us as a church, an identity that God has formed us. He knows us. He knows exactly what we're like on a Sunday morning, that we're sometimes a bit late. Well, I'm not so much now because I have to be there to practice the keyboard sometimes. But, but he knows how we sit, that there's always a front row that's never sat in. I don't know why, but anyway. But, that's bigger than that. But he knows our heart, and, he knows Adam's heart for this town, this community. For many of us who've been here, he knows us. He knows Barry. Barry's great. I love Barry. He's, I've just met him recently and think, but you're great. You're just it's just lovely. You bring joy. He knows Ish. He knows Becky. Love to see you, by the way. But he knows you. He loves you. And he knows our identity. He knows, our church. He just loves us. Not because we're amazing. It's not at all because we're proud and all of that, but actually because it's God. This is us. But he knows our part. So, but he's called us for this town. There's one thing in listening to some of the church recordings, they're all on YouTube videos, and it went on to this. It was actually a video about this guy called, let me get his name, John Lennox. So he's basically a Cambridge, Oxford, clever man, sort of, I guess he's a professor, sort of that type of thing. But he's well known for being a Christian apologist. That's somebody who explains the faith rationally and reasonably, and, it's thing. But one of the things he said, it was just a simple statement. He just talked about the value of us as humans, and actually that came not because of who we are, what we do, but literally because we're made in the image of God. That's why we're valuable, And we've had a lot of ministries that have talked about the gold. I think it's Heart Styles or Sozo. One of you will be able to correct me, but actually the gold in each of us, because we are made in the image of God. He loves us, and there's treasure, there's gold in each one of us, and. I just think, about in the summer we heard about, those tragic deaths of Mike Lynch in his boat. But even last week of the pregnant lady who was a migrant crossing the channel that died along with some of the children. And actually, for each of those people, their lives are so different. One had a very big barn and one had no barn at all. But actually their lives were equally valuable in the sight of God because he loved them. And actually, it's equally true for each of them that truth of the psalm, that he knew them, that he held them fast. I don't know what their moments were at the end of their lives, but he knew and he's seen them, and they were fearfully and wonderfully made. So there's, I think that's the core in who we are as a church. I think it's that identity of, we see not only the gold in ourselves, but actually there's a gold in the people around us, and that God wants us to, draw out of. Now. Oops. Oh, sorry, I've got to go back. There we are, right. Now, just going to get that. So I've entitled this next section, Searching. And I think it's not just been the message of the summer. I think it's something as a part of identity in the church now, is that the importance of taking time to rest, take time out, slow down, allow us to encounter, I guess, the truth with Jesus. And why? Because it brings us life. And it helps us to discover more about his love. Now, this is a lovely picture. That picture up there is a picture of my earring. Now, I have got one here. That's the little earring there. It's small. It is quite small. It is quite small. Now, the reason I'm showing you that is because on holiday, we as a family, we were really fortunate to go to Sweden. It was a bit of a last-minute decision. But the areas in Sweden, I do recommend it. It's a really beautiful area. It's lots of lakes and sort of beautiful nature reserves. And on one of these walks, we were going out to Stockholm for the day, and we were walking through the wood to get to the train. It was all very lovely and idyllic, as you imagine. And I was wearing my earrings, and I went past a tree because I was trying to take a photo of the kids in front of me, as you do as mums. You sort of do silly photos. Anyway, I walked into this branch and didn't think about it. Carried on walking, got onto the train, and then I just felt the back of my thought, there's the back of my ear, but the front of it wasn't there. So we'd taken a photo halfway on the journey. Olu likes taking photos, he's great. So basically I sort of got onto this, I knew from this photo that I'd lost this earring before that, and I'm guessing it was when I basically walked through this bit of branch that sort of hit me. Anyway, it's a lovely earring. So on the return journey, we searched for it. We sort of went slowly, looked at the floor, trying to find it. We went back several times. We went back at night time with a torch, thinking it might shine, sparkle. But unfortunately, it had actually been raining, so everything sparkled. Olu went out walking. Olu's my husband at the back, but he went out. He always quite often discovers and explores places, and he was walking, also looked for me. Abigail and I, we went again, and we thought, it's a really good idea. She said, what does your earring look like on the floor? So I took the earring out, the one that I had left, put it on the floor, and it was really hard. It was really small on the floor. You couldn't see it. And so I picked it up and took a few steps forward, opened my hand and realised I hadn't actually got my earring, the last earring I had, but actually it was a piece of wood, or a little small piece of wood. So it was like, then we went back. I thought, I can't lose another one. So we went back, and literally we went square by square trying to find this. It took us probably 15 to 20 minutes, you reckon? Yeah, anyway, quite a lot. I did find it, but it was really tricky. Now, I'd love to be able to say that we discovered my earring, but no, we didn't. So it is the story of I call it the parable of the lost, found. Sadly, it wasn't the lost, found. But there we are. It was what it is. But it was, we said. But now the reason I've said that is because there is a reason. Is actually, let me just find it in here. I wasn't just randomly looking for treasure. We didn't just walk through that wood thinking, I'll find an earring. I knew that treasure was there. I knew my earring was there somewhere, and still is, for somebody else to find. But, and that's why we went searching. And, I think that whole thing of actually taking time to spend time with God, taking time out, whether it's this morning later when I finish speaking, or, as we go through that week, there is treasure to find. And, the treasure is the stuff that brings life to us, that God's got for us. And there's a... there we are. Yeah. So, there's a couple of things on there. So before I just go on, there's that treasure for us to find. But I just want to look at a couple of other things on here. I've given you hidden treasures. Oh no, so I'll go to the one above. Basically, there's a Christian Forster who used to be part of our church. I think he used to talk about that that we have got that ability to discover treasure that God has not hidden from us, but is there to discover. Now, I don't know whether there's a Bible verse about that, but in a sense, there is treasure to discover, and I think that's what's really important is that God wants us to search and take that time out. Now, the reason I say that is because it's that whole thing about just some of the profound things. If I think about my own life, some of the times that have been really profoundly changed is when I've discovered treasure, when there's been something like a word of revelation and understanding that's come. And actually, Paris, who's not here today, her testimony was one of searching. She went down lots of dark routes. If anybody's heard a testimony or haven't had a chance to speak to her, she went down all sorts of different routes. And actually, they were not great for her. But actually, she was searching for that truth, and she was searching for the thing that would change her life. And she discovered it in Jesus. And when she found it, she knew that was it. This was what she's been searching for. And I think that's really important. The next verse, it says, "I'll give you hidden treasures, which is stored in secret places, that you may know that I am Lord." Now, in one of the museums in Stockholm we visited, there was a story area of the museum that talked about, these young boys that discovered a hoard of treasure in the outskirts of Stockholm. Like many, I guess, cities, towns, even in England, you hear of these hoards being discovered. People they buried their treasure because there weren't banks and safe places. So they buried it when there was going to be lots of things happening, and they wanted it kept safe. And these boys had just been playing, I think it was the 70s or 80s, something like that, in Stockholm, and they discovered this massive amount of gold, just a huge amount that was just discovered. They were playing, and obviously the people who buried it originally, they went around to pick it up. Don't really know the history of it, but. And this verse is actually from a passage in the Bible, and it's about, it talks about God. It's in Isaiah, and it's about God chooses sort of Cyrus. He's not actually, and it says actually he was somebody that actually didn't really acknowledge God, but actually he said, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to show Israel just how much I love them. This is what I'm going to do for them. I'm going to shatter bronze doors, open doors, sort of march out in front of him, change things around." But this verse comes and he says, and God says, "I will give you hidden treasures, which is stored in secret places, that you may know that I'm Lord." And I think that's significant. I think it might be, there's that sense of actually God providing provision. For us, it might be something for like miracle building. Actually, there's treasure stored. So it could be actual wealth. It could be things, people were, we've heard testimonies of how God provides, money to do certain things and all sorts of things. But actually, there's treasure to find, and I think, but I also think, thinking about today, is that actually there's treasure for us to discover, and actually, even as we think that actually it's there for us to find, and it may be that that treasure was there to bless him. It might have been a resource to be able for him to do all the things that God said I'm going to do. I don't know, but actually, that's the treasure that we discover, the truth about who we are in God, that knowing we are called loved is actually a really key thing to discover. And we are treasure as well. So there's a flip side of that, actually. It's because, we are treasure to God and he loves us too. So I'm going to move on just slightly. Actually, just before I said something, actually, right at the beginning, I meant to say, at the beginning of the meeting, Luke came up and their boys were running around. They'd all made treasure maps. And I didn't want to take it from him as an example, but it was just really lovely because they'd actually all found treasure and they'd hidden treasure 3 places around here. I don't know whether the treasure is still in this room. It could well be, but maybe it's in 3 areas later on. And actually, we're going to find some treasure and for you personally in sense of prophetic revelation. I don't know. So, now, this is an image. Again, I was reminded of it actually last week. It was in a church building that we went to visit. And it's also on a little postcard that I was given by somebody on our wall in my kitchen. And I just think this is a wonderful image of, of what we're talking about today, really. And Kerry brought that verse that she'd spent some time really thinking about that. "You must continually let my love nourish your hearts." And I think, for me, it's a really, some significant times have come when I felt really loved and hugged by God, and that's all I can say. And there's been a few significant times at home on my own when I've just known, the first time really was just, I was a bit about something and I just felt just the presence of somebody standing next to me. And I don't know whether it was an angel, I don't know whether it was Jesus, the Holy Spirit, I'm not quite sure quite, but I just knew God's presence was there with me. And a few months ago, again, not because I was necessarily thinking, I was just thinking, I just felt God give me a hug. I don't know what it was, just right, really simply, it wasn't complicated, it was just felt like I'd been hugged. And that God wanted to give me a hug. And it was just a precious moment. And I keep coming back to that actually, I wake up in the morning, I think, yeah, I'm loved. God, there's that hug of that the Father wants to give us. And actually, it's that, I think there's something really tender about that picture there. I mean, it's about the prodigal son returning, but actually the prodigal son didn't receive what he thought he was expected. He expected he should receive, but actually it was the loving embrace of a father. And that is so freeing to know we are loved. I stand here this morning, not because I've got to prove anything, but actually my God is, he's hugged me. I know this morning, I just love spending that time being hugged, I guess. And that's, whether we're physically hugged, obviously it's really lovely, but, actually this was something that was, I can imagine, I can see and just know. And I think, that's a key thing part of all of that, being called loved. Now I'm going to show you just a couple more things before we go into worship and things. But actually, this is actually a picture. I don't know if some of you might recognise it. Robin's nodding. We were away for a bit of time with Robin and Ash early in the summer, and this is actually a statue right outside. Well, it was a quarantine island that was in Menorca, and the aim of this quarantine island, it was to sort of, and this image here was that it was there designed to break the chain of infection. And I just thought, for me, that image is really powerful. And you might not be able to see, but there's chains that are on both hands that have been broken apart. And I actually, I was not very well earlier in the week, and I felt a bit ill, not well, and disease is about not feeling at ease, isn't it? And for each, there may be, I don't know, there's people here that just aren't feeling at ease, and actually and I just think God wants to break those chains off you and to bring you into a place of just knowing you're hugged this morning. And the reason I've got this is I was out shopping the other day, and I just went into, I can't remember, a mountain warehouse, something like that. I've always quite fancied a hoodie sort of thing. I know it's a bit of a young thing. It's not really a sort of somebody that my age, at 56, anyway, but I saw this hoodie, but actually it was more than that, because I actually felt God say something. So I felt, first of all, obviously there's a picture of on the front of it is, that to start off with, just a bit of a whale diving, which is the image from the front, I guess the back, but it's a bit more sort of, I don't know whether you can see it. But I actually felt there's two things. I felt, first of all, that actually, I saw the whale deep, diving, and I just felt that whole thing of actually God saying, I want you to go deeper. I know that's not very complicated, but that whole thing of actually knowing, I want you to go deeper. I want you to understand more about how God loves you. He really wants to, there's actually, do you know you're really loved? That you're called loved? Do you really know that? How much do you know it? And keep sort of going in that respect. But actually the second thing I think, which is also actually more significant, is I felt, and in that there was somebody here that felt like they were really pressurised. That actually just like, that sense of going, I don't like going underwater, and I'd hate to go for diving, I have to say, but that sense of just being under pressure and feeling like it's all, when you go under that deep pressure, and that sense of not being able to get away from it. And I felt, and maybe just for something else, but actually, if that's you this morning, if you're feeling under pressure, you feel like there's not an escape, there's, I'll leave that with you to sort of Duncan, but if that's you, please do come and find somebody to pray. See the prayer space people and, us around. But and it may be a few of us, it might not be anybody, but that's what I really felt, that actually God wanted to bring you into a place of freedom in that. Sorry. Right, so finishing off really, I mean, obviously we had Belinda, we were talking about friendship. I think we also had Adam, earlier in the thing, we were looking at Matthew, looking about sharing a meal, and we had the tables together. That to me, is part of identity of who we are as River. It's about loving one another. We sang it this morning so that we can love others. That was a great song I've never heard that we sang right at the beginning, but it is that whole thing of being together, a relationship around the table. I had a friend who was doing fine art up at Central St Martin's, and she had for her central sort of like final project, literally her kitchen table that she'd pulled out the bits from the middle and she'd threaded this bow pull through it. And the idea is that people who came along and looked at it, you just added bits in. And the significance really was actually about the things that happen around a kitchen table, as a family, how you meet, how you talk. There's a history. Quite often you do things that are similar to the family that you've gone before. And actually it's just the richness that goes on around the table. And I think it's equally the rich of going around, think about communion and all of that, the gospel, what that Jesus has done, what that has meant for us. But actually it's that sense of being around and table and actually allowing God to work through us, breaking bread together, with sharing the good news of the gospel. And I think, it's a place of belonging as well. And, everybody here that is here today, you are really welcome here. I know Adam would really say that. You are really welcome. Everybody, you're really welcome. You really belong at this time. You belong here. Yeah, you're not supposed to be here. You're welcome, welcome, and you belong here. And I think that's. There was a thing in the lectio. I think was it sometime in the summer, but it was I'm a few weeks behind in lectio. But it says, "I choose to welcome you into every area of my life and home." In this prayer, it says, "Pull up a seat at my dining table. I won't try to hide or tidy the messy areas of my life. Instead, I will savor your love and welcome your transformation." None of us are perfect. I know my children, my dad, my husband will obviously say I am, but no, they'll tell me that I'm not perfect. Not nicely, obviously, but actually we're not perfect. None of us are. We're sort of broken people coming together that just, but actually people that who are called loved. And, I think that's really important. There's this morning that actually we know we are loved. It's a loving place. You're a safe place. We talked about that earlier on, about those different things of that you're safe, but you're held here. And actually, that you're loved. So I'm not going to, I think that's it. Oh, let me just go to think. Last page. You're on the last thing. We're coming in, don't worry. I don't know how long I've talked for, so hopefully not too long. That's fine. We're nearly finished though. But actually, this is actually an image that actually I think Steve sent to me, because there was the prophetic team, or there's a team that meets that just think about actually bringing words of, the whole area of the prophetic and bringing the words of life in our church. And this is a picture that actually I heard. It was a recording because I couldn't get to the meeting because I wasn't very well. But actually, it just struck me, and it was just really describing Steve. I guess it's you, Steve, and Linda's farm. Ash. Oh, it's Ash as well. So yes, all of these people. But I just thought this is an amazing image. And actually, the reason I sort of I'm just going to actually find my page. I need to take that down, but that's still, there we are. Just finding the last page so I can actually, don't want to miss bits. So I just think there's something about that journey of us walking, and Steve, when he prayed, was talking about following in the footsteps of people who had reached out to God before. And we're a community that we're loved by God, but we're reaching out also, aren't we? To find out what for our own lives, but also the community that we live to His love. I can't do. Got no thing, but actually it's that understanding, and I love that image. And a book I read in the summer, it had this quote talking about the effect of love, and it said an extraordinary shift had taken place, and that of love preceding them. It had crept ahead, scattering benevolence and joy. And I just have that picture for us as a church. That as we're walking, that we're walking in hoping and bringing the presence of God and all of that goodness. But actually, that he goes before us. It's actually God that goes before us. I can't change anybody's life in a way that God can do something, neither can I, but we can obviously be a friend and work into all of that. But actually, there's something about God going before us, and actually, his love just precedes us. I guess that's what we want to see, and that's just working out of his love in all of those things. And the river of life, we've talked about, our river and who identity. It talked about. I think it was before church again, talking about identity. We've got our identity. Wherever the river flows, everything will live. And I bought this book because I know Kerry recommended it earlier in the summer, and there was something, just a verse or a page in there that talked about the temple and actually the river of life, which is what we're about. And it says that that God's holy presence was a healing agent of change, which could be released into the brokenness of the world. And, I just think that's for us as a church. We want, our heart and desire is that we live in that river, jump in that river, understand what that river of love is about, but also that actually that we bring life through what we do. And his holy presence coming before us, just like, that verse of just thing, like going before these guys here, there's something they're going to, that God's holy presence was a healing agent. And we want River to be part of, what's God's heart for this. We know it's part of God's heart for this town, along with the other churches and other people around here. But it's that healing agent of change which could be released into the brokenness of the world. And I think that's incredible potential. And I think, and I think for us this morning, I've really come to a bit of the end of where, thing. But I hope this morning it's made, helped us think. But I just think even this last, we've got a good stretch of time now to encounter Father God. If there is somebody that really feels that's for you, that pressure thing, please do come and find us. If it's about going deeper and that's something you want to do and want to get prayed with, then again, that might be something you want to do. But I think I'm going to... But just to finish off, though, that, that whole thing of you call me loved. And I think really, really, really want you to understand how much you're hugged and how much he loves us. And that's it, Adam, for the moment.